you all for being here tonight. And we have, if you haven't noticed already, it's a little bit of a zoo theme. And because we have Michelle rushing. And Michelle, did you have any kind of an intro or bio, or do you want to just kind of share?
I'll share.
All right, okay. So this, I want to bring up Michelle Rushing. She's the director of the Gulf Breeze Zoo, and we're so happy to have you with us tonight. Give her a round of applause.
You're welcome, thank you very much. I'm actually the marketing director of the Gulf Breeze Zoo. When I was in high school, my dream was to be a marine biologist. But the thought of dissecting a pig just kind of made me turn that career elsewhere. So I do say that the zookeepers have the best job, but I have the second best job because I get to promote the zoo. So the zoo was actually started by Pat Quinn. He actually bought the land in 1983, and in May of 1984, the zoo opened. And I think at that time it was, I don't think it was called it might have just been called the zoo. I do admit I'm not quite sure what the original name was, but, and to tell you what a small world it is, the receptionist at my vet actually worked for Pat Quinn, and his friend that started the zoo together when they started the zoo. And so she was telling me about when they went to pick up Colossus, a male gorilla, in 1986, and she was on the plane that brought Colossus back to the zoo. And so it was really neat hearing about her. So that actually 1986, once Colossus arrived, that was their heaviest visited year. And so he kind of put the zoo on the map. And in 1988, the zoo was accredited by the American Association of Zoos and Aquariums, the AZA. There are two accrediting bodies, the AZA and then the ZAA, the Zoological Association of America. And in 1989, the Florida Association of Zoos and Aquariums was founded, and the zoo became a member of that in 1993. So the zoo continued to grow, and then, well, now is it 19 years ago, Hurricane Ivan decided to pay a little visit. And unfortunately, that visit kind of changed the trajectory for the zoo. It was really hit hard, and unfortunately, insurance didn't pay what it needed to, and so the zoo struggled. And some friends of mine actually created a board. Danielle Lentz, Kennedy Lentz was one of them, and they tried to keep the zoo going. But in 2009, they it was actually sold in 2009 to Zufari Parks. And Eric Mogensen, who owns Zufari Parks, actually worked with Pat Quinn. He got his start at the Gulf Breeze Zoo, and he opened the Virginia Safari Park in Natural Bridge, Virginia in 2000. And so Zufari Parks is the parent company now for the Gulf Breeze Zoo. We're now privately owned. We get no money from state or federal or state, city, county tax dollars. So every visit to the zoo and every encounter purchased helps pay to run the zoo. And there are quite a lot of animals to feed at the zoo. So we had a wonderful attendance year. We thought that, after COVID, that might have been our peak. But we have continued to stay around the same as the attendance in 2019. So we had more than 300,000 guests visit the zoo last year.
Wow.
So Zufari Parks also owns the Alabama Safari Park in Hope Hull, which is south of Montgomery, and they just opened the Texas Safari Park. And so those are drive-through safaris where you can drive through, feed the animals, and then they have small villages where, so like a mini zoo. And so the Gulf Breeze Zoo is unique to safari parks, and it was really a purchase of love for Eric, because he had gotten his start there and he didn't want to see the zoo close. And so it did reopen. I think it was the Zoo of Northwest Florida, and it reopened as the Gulf Breeze Zoo in 2010. And then in 2018, the first white rhino, southern white rhino calf was born at the Gulf Breeze Zoo. And she was the first ever calf to be born there in its 30-year history. And since then, we have had, I think we've had 2 more births. And, you know, as with breeding, we have to move animals in and out. And so it's very helpful that we have different facilities so that we make sure that the gene lines don't become, I don't want to say contaminated because that's not the right word, but we move them around, we work with other facilities. And in 2018, the zoo also purchased an additional 35 acres of land, so there is room for expansion. Right now, about, I think about 25 to 30 acres is in the preserve, which you can see through the train. So our white rhinos are in the preserve. We also, in 2021, we received an Indian white rhino, a Indian rhino. He's also known as a greater one-horned rhino, and he's the only one there because unlike the southern white rhinos, they don't live in herds. They are very singular. Someone would do good with another Indian rhino when it was breeding season, but after that, he would not be happy to share his space. So he's a bachelor. You might see him in the back of his enclosure because he thinks he's in love with the pygmy hippo who lives next door. So that's his girlfriend. He likes to hang out when she's there. So if he doesn't come forward, his girlfriend's there. So also in the preserve, we have gazelles, we have greater kudu, we have axis deer, and black buck. And the axis deer and the black buck pretty much have the range. If it's not closed off, like for example, they can't get into the gazelles or the greater kudus enclosures, but they roam between the where the white rhinos are, and then they'll go through that fencing, and so sometimes if you're on the train and you look by, you'll see the black bucks running and actually kind of jumping. And so we do have a boardwalk that goes out, and at the end of the boardwalk you can see the southern white rhinos and you can see our orangutans. But in order to really get a good view of the hippos and the gorillas, you need to take the train. And just as a note, we have some pretty big days coming up. Tomorrow is actually World Rhino Day. So we've got a story time at 9:30, and then we have 2 keeper chats tomorrow, one in front of Soman's exhibit, and then the second one at the end of the boardwalk in front of the white rhino's habitat. And then Sunday is World Gorilla Day. And so we do have a troop of 3 gorillas. We have Babuka, he is our male silverbacked gorilla, and his mate is Rwanda, and their son still lives with them. His name is Kilgali because Kilgali recognizes that Babuka is the alpha male, and so he hasn't tried to challenge for dominance. If that were to happen, we would probably have to find another home for Kilgali, but right now he is not challenged his dad for dominance, so they get to stay. And if you're out there, they actually just redid the platforms on the island. So both the orangutans have a new expanded platform. They've got hammock in there to hang out in, and then the gorillas also have expanded platforms, and they've got some areas to play with. So keep making changes to the enclosures helps give the animals enrichment, and it keeps things fresh for them, which is something that we always want to do. And speaking of births, we also had a giraffe born at the zoo in July, and he was, he came out to the public, at the beginning of September and was introduced. He has free reign, but he likes staying in the barn. He's a shy giraffe. We had homeschool day, last Friday, which is when we had, various keeper chats throughout the day that allowed homeschooling, parents to bring their children to the zoo for educational, and his keepers were out there, and so he did come out of the barn, but he would dash back into the barn and then come back out. So he's a little shy, but he's getting used to it.
Does he have a name?
His name is Kronk. We don't love, well, a few of us don't love him, but his name is Kronk. So he's very shy, but he was very cute. He was 6 feet when he was born, so he's a tall fellow.
And was it 600 pounds? Did I hear that? Did I read that, or do you remember?
Don't quote me on that because I don't know, but I don't know. I don't think it was 600, but it was.
400.
Yeah, it might have been around that. I remember his height, but not his weight. And so, in addition to your admission, helping to feed and house the animal, we also have a variety of encounters that guests can do with the animals. Seasonally, we have a Galapagos tortoise encounter. That encounter tends to, we don't have set days when it starts and when it begins. It's really weather dependent. Once it gets too cold for the tortoises to be out, we'll take that one off. But year round, we've got the albino alligators, and kids love that because they get to come see the alligator and pet it. And then we've got 2 sloths, and we do have a sloth encounter. And the number one question we get asked is, can you hold the sloth? And the answer, I'm sorry, is no, because that's not a natural behavior. And so the keepers don't even pick up and hold the sloths because we want the experience to be and the sloths to have as natural of an environment as possible. And so, but that, the sloth encounter, the Galapagos encounter, and the albino encounter are all ages. And I do believe, we also have giraffe encounters, and I believe that age is maybe 8 to be back there with the giraffes. And we have a hippo encounter. That one I also believe it has a minimum age of 8, where you can feed our hippos, Kiboko and Cleopatra. And it's really kind of neat to look into that hippo mouth and get to feed it. And then our newest encounter is with Soman. And guests can come in and feed him, and that one also has, I believe, an age. You have to be at least 8 years old to go in. Was
there
that
a maximum age?
No maximum age. But just want to make sure that that the children are old enough to be able to be in there. So and as I said, the zoo was opened in May of 1984, which means that next year we will be celebrating our 40th anniversary. And so we are in the planning stages for that. And event-wise, coming up, we have Boo at the Zoo. We have 3 weekends of trick-or-treating. And then in December, we have Christmas Jubilee, which is another family-friendly event where the parents can bring the kids, they can meet Santa, they can, on the candy cane trail, meet the vendors and get some candy, and then we also have bounce houses and face painting, so it's just a fun way to take the kids out and enjoy the outdoors. Luckily, living in Florida, we don't get too cold. Yes, sir?
Will this be published in the GBAHS News or about your schedule?
It's on our website,
On
which
your
is
website.
gbzoo.com. But yeah, I will be sending a press release out, but whether or not they pick it up is up to them.
Okay.
But it's on our website and also on our Facebook page.
And is Pat Quinn still living?
No, sir, Pat Quinn passed away,
A year ago. A year ago?
I think it was early this year, if my mind, if not, he passed away, they had a celebration for him earlier this year, but I believe it was in the spring,
I'm sorry I missed that, he was a nice guy.
yeah.
What about Colosso, is he still there?
No, unfortunately, I'm not quite sure when, he left the zoo, and it's not in our history, so I don't know if he left because he died of old age, or if he went to another facility,
I
as
think he
far-
ended up in Atlanta Zoo, I think he did.
Mhm.
I didn't know if he was gonna come back to the Guthrie Zoo.
No, that would have been the time with the previous ownership,
I got
and
you.
so we don't, there's, a lot of records that we don't have.
I got you.
So. Are there any other questions that you wanna know about the zoo that I can answer?
Do you still do zoo lights at Christmas?
We have not done zoo lights, for a few years. When we opened up the Alabama Safari Park, the lights moved up there, and so you can drive around and see the lights, and the animals will
Where is that
come up.
again in Alabama?
It is, in Hope Hole, it's on I-65,
Hope Hall.
Hope Hole, I don't know if, H-U-L-L, yeah.
Hall. Okay.
So it's the Pentlala exit, and I don't know about y'all, but I love a Dairy Queen ice cream cone. And since, I know, when I would go and visit my parents when they lived in, South Carolina, that would be my treat on the way home, so not to mention Pentlala, that name just flows off the tongue, but yeah, it's the Pentlala exit, I believe it's, please don't quote me, but it's either exit 158 or exit 160.
Do y'all take volunteers up there?
We don't, and it's mainly for liability, because we're a privately owned zoo, we would have to have additional insurance, and so it was something that the owner made a decision to not have, docents and volunteers anymore.
Volunteers.
Yeah, so, but yeah, we do get asked about that often, but it was just, there's just too many things that can possibly happen, and so, just from a liability and insurance standpoint, we just decided to kick it to staff.
We're paying my own liability insurance.
No, I'm sorry. But sometimes we look for, we do have jobs in maintenance, landscaping, and so if that's something that interests you, just, check out the careers page, and you can join the team.
Something I was fascinated about, I love the new boardwalk,
Mhm.
because, you used to have to take the train if you wanted to see the gorillas, and now the boardwalk goes all the way out.
Well, you still have to take the train to see the gorillas just based on where they are. You can see, well, let me
Well, you can
rephrase
see
that.
them.
You can't, depending upon where they are, so there's two, it looks like a big island, but the orangs have their section, and then the gorillas have their section, so that they don't, but, if the gorillas are on more of their back and they're not up by their, platform, you can see the gorillas from the end of the boardwalk. You are correct.
And do you still pay to ride the train, or that's included in the admission?
That's now included with admission, so
Okay.
it's included in the price.
And, what I was fascinated with is, but there was no sign or anything to say what they were, but at the end of that boardwalk, so if you look down, there's like a shoreline there on that lagoon, I don't know what that is, a moat or a
We'll call
lagoon.
it, yeah, a little boat.
But, I counted 14 turtles, from like this big to, I mean, they were amazing. What
I
kind
think
of-
they're just common turtles,
Really,
yeah.
that was something, we were feeding them because we still had food left.
Yeah,
But they were beautiful.
they are. Yes, sir?
You said you don't take volunteers, but do you take, college interns, either paid or unpaid?
I don't know if they still have an intern program, but they do, when we need additional keepers, we will post those. We did not have interns this year because we were fully staffed. So, but they can always watch the page and see, but yeah, right now, I think we've got positions open for, a great apes keeper and, hoofstock keeper.
A question that somebody had asked me outside of the meeting, I don't know who was that asked me, it was, what do you do with the animals if a hurricane is coming?
Well, their night houses are very, well protected, but if there was a need, we would move them up to either, Alabama and probably stage them there, or we might take them out to Texas, but, their night houses are all built to withstand, hurricane force winds, yeah. So that we have not needed to evacuate.
Oh, good.
How do you transport them if you have to move them?
Well, we have special trailers. For example, we moved some, when we opened, the Texas Safari Park, we moved some of the rhinos out to Texas, from our Virginia location, and the, truck driver, there were 2 of them, they basically drove straight through to lessen the time that the, rhinos had to spend in their trailer. With giraffes, believe it or not, there are specialized trailers that will raise, and then they'll actually lower it, and then the giraffe will kneel in there because, you just really can't have a trailer going down that high, especially if there's a bridge. So yeah, there are special trailers for transporting the animals and everything.
Does the zoo own those, or do you have to hire someone to move your animals?
We actually own them, just because we have 4 properties. It makes more sense for us to have those, when we need them.
Yeah, because you said you have to move them sometimes for different reasons. Right,
Yeah, for
okay.
example, Kronk, who is a male giraffe, once he gets to be sexually mature, he will actually have to go someplace else, because, just he's related to half the females there, and so we'll have to move him to, we work with other zoos, with breeding, for breeding recommendations. So he could, go to another zoo, he could go to one of our parks. For example, up at Alabama, it is, we have a herd of 3 males. They don't have any females, so it's just the 3 bachelor giraffes, but yeah, eventually Kronk will have to leave, because he is a male, and, male giraffes would also fight for dominance, and so we have a male bull there, and once Kronk got older, they could fight, and they, when giraffes fight in nature, they hit each other with their necks, and it can result in death for one of the giraffes. So that's obviously not something that we would ever want to have happen, so.
That's not fun.
Yeah, so you'll be able to see him for a little while, but eventually he will move to another facility.
Good luck there.
You used to, and I'm trying to think the name of the animal, on the first island, when you first went in, what were those, they were a type of monkey, I think. What?
Okay, so we have, Boomer is on the island, across from the field where, when we have events, we'll set up, that's Boomer, he turned 44 years old.
What's the animal?
He is a white-handed gibbon.
Gibbon,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
And so you still have him on?
Yes,
It
yes.
didn't seem like anybody was on the island.
Well, Boomer goes where Boomer wants. If Boomer wants him to hang out in his house, he will hang out in his house. If he likes to hang out in his tree, he might be in his tree where you might not see him, but you can also, on occasion, walk by and see him swinging from the branches. He likes doing that.
They used to, whether it was him or whoever it was, he used to be very vocal too.
Oh, he's still vocal.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I guess he was just quiet that day.
Yeah, they tend to do the vocalization more in the morning.
Oh.
So if you come in the afternoon, that they're quieter. But yeah, Boomer is out there on the island, by himself, and, he at one point had a mate, but I believe she passed away. And so, he is the bachelor out there, but he's one of our most loved, animals. And we also, the other animal that we have we have 2 cheetahs at the zoo now, and they came from our sister park in Virginia. So,
Now, we saw the cheetah, but we didn't see any tigers.
we no longer have tigers.
Oh, okay.
So, Toby passed away, in 2022, and while tigers can be solitary creatures in the wild, Indra, was very used to Toby, and so she missed him, and so we looked for a facility where she could have a companion, because introducing adult cats, and while she's not an adult, I think she's under 4, but still, so we wanted to find a facility for her while it would still work and producing her to another tiger, so that she has a companion. So as much as we love her and we miss her, she missed Toby and wanted a companion, and so we were able to find a facility, and so she is there with her new companion. And we brought in cheetahs at that time. Yes, sir.
Does the handlers and the cats get along good, human contact?
Yeah, the keepers work with their animals all the time, especially with enrichment and engagement, and they do husbandry training, and they build up trust. So for example, they work with the animals so that if they need to do a blood draw, or they need to check, how the paw is doing, especially like in the winter, to make sure that the paws are due. They've trained with the animals and have spent thousands of hours working with those animals. So I'm gonna get the class wrong. They're either class 1 or class 3. So there's obviously no contact with the tigers or with the lions or the cheetahs or so they don't go in with them.
What do you mean?
So they always stay outside the fence. They don't go in the enclosure.
Or the handlers,
Yeah.
the keepers don't go inside the enclosure, okay.
No. So,
How many keepers do you have?
let's see. We just had Zookeeper Week in July. I believe, cause we had to stretch it out rather than doing a week's worth, we spread it out, I believe, over 3 weeks. I think we have 21 keepers.
Wow.
So, we have a team that works with the great apes, and the lemurs on the backside. So you've got the orangs, you've got the ring-tailed lemurs, and then you've got the gorillas, and the great apes keepers work with those. And then the keepers are broken up between mammals, bird, and then birds. And so we've got within that some sub-teams. So we've got 2 keepers that work with the lions, the cheetahs, and the other large mammals. And then we've got the keepers that work with the giraffes and the other hoof stock. And then we've got the birds and reptiles keepers that work with the tortoises and the birds.
And do you have a veterinarian on staff as well, or do you partner with someone?
We don't have one on staff. We partner with a local vet who will come in if we if they need to see them, or if it's an animal that we could take to the vet, like one of the lemurs or something. Otherwise, the vet will come out to see us. But that's a requirement, is to have a licensed veterinary partner.
There used to be a lot of peacocks around. I either saw one or I didn't see any. I was trying to remember now. Do you still have peacocks around?
We do. We have one free-ranging male. And if you've been at the zoo lately, he's got exactly 2 feathers left because mating season is over, and he doesn't need to be pretty anymore, and so those will start growing back probably around February, and he'll have his full plumage. But
I didn't realize they lost them.
yeah, they grow them back every year, and so it's and yeah, their feathers are their plumage to attract
Do you
the
find the
female.
feathers?
Yeah, they'll drop them around.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, you can walk through and yeah. Yes, ma'am.
During this last excessive heat that we had this summer, did you have any problems there, or how did you keep the animals?
So all of the animals, and I call it night house, that might not be the technical term, because they have access to their night house whenever they want. We don't ever force an animal to do something they don't want to do, but their night houses are all heated and cooled to their species specifications. So
Climate control, housing.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
yeah, so the birds have what they need. The lions and cheetahs have what they need. everybody, the orangs, have what they need, so, yeah, it's all, the books that the keepers have are very comprehensive, and so, everything is done to what the animal species requires.
And did you say what the size of the facility is now?
We have 50 acres with an additional 35, to expand it in the future.
The 50 that's being used now,
Mm-hmm.
35 in reserve.
Yeah, so currently that includes, the parking, we expanded the parking lot because we had basically outgrown that. Last year for Boo at the Zoo, was our first event that used the expanded parking, and we filled it as well. And so we've also, the gift shop used to be in the admissions, and so now, we have an actual gift shop building, and that's where you exit. So, it helps the flow so that the admissions isn't an entrance and an exit, so you don't have to, worry about it, because that building used to be very crowded, because not only was it the admissions, it was the gift shop, and so it could get very crowded. Now everybody, we have a big gift shop, and, that's how, everybody exits the park. Any other questions or anything you wanna know about the zoo? Well, thank you very much for having me, and I hope that, next year when we're celebrating our 40th, anniversary, you'll help, spread the word
Yeah.
about the history of the zoo.
We will. Let's give Michelle a
Thank
you.
round. This is for you, that's homemade cookies.
Thank you,
With
thank you
decorated
very
with the zoo.
much. Thank y'all for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you for, learning about the zoo.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah, my 19-year-old grandson, he's in France now, but, I wanted to spend the day with him, and I said, what do you wanna do? And he said, let's go to the zoo. And we hadn't been there in 2 years, so I saw a lot of, differences.
Yeah.
But I was pleased to see how many people were there, you know, so. It is kind of pricey, but like, Felix said, he said, well, we're helping feed the animals, you know,
That's
so.
right, we get no
That's-
tax, we
we
get no
should
tax
get that.
dollars, so your
Yeah, I didn't
admission
realize.
fees pays for the animals' food, their care. And we also, at the end of each year, all the parks pull, and then we make donations to several, conservation organizations around the world,
Yeah.
including the, rhinos, gorillas, and several other organizations, so.
That's nice.
Yeah, so your dollars are, yes, it's not as inexpensive as it used to be, but your dollars help, make the lives of the animals, better, and also animals around the world to
Yeah.
help fight extinction and other issues that they're facing.
Well, that's good, and there should be more publicity about it, because I've always thought, for this small area we live in, it's really a nice zoo. I mean, it always has been really a nice zoo, and, we're thrilled to have it. So thank you so much for what you do, and, we appreciate it.
Thank you.